We are joined by Joel and Natasha, America's Roundtable, which is heard right here on this network every Saturday from 7:30 to 8 o'clock, an award-winning show, and even more so week after week after week. Good mornings. How are you guys doing? It's good to see you.
Good morning, Paul. How are you doing?
Good morning, Paul. It's great to see you. Happy Friday to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Perez and I both need it. We've used up the very last of our brain cells, and we leave nothing on the table for the weekend. Let me put it that way. You guys got a special guest coming up for tomorrow's program.
Yes, indeed. We are truly delighted to host a great American, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and we'll be joined by Governor Phil Bryant. And Natasha and I look forward to a great weekend program right here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Yeah, well, the audience continues to build, and you guys do a great job with some great guests. Yesterday, or this week, when we found out that we knew it wasn't going to pass, but just the fact that it made it as far as it did for the People Act, that hopefully that was the demise of that thing forever. But your thoughts about this, because to me it was as close as you could have for a bill to be called a political coup. Your thoughts?
Yes, you're right, Paul. This is like a corrupt politicians act, rather, to be named so, because what it intended to do is to federalize elections, which are actually responsibility of the states as defined by U.S. Constitution. So the fact is that you would give a power to have one party stay in power actually indefinitely, because the way it was structured, it removed the ID requirements. It instituted mail-in ballots as a regular occurrence so that each person on a voter list receive a mail-in ballot, and actually it keeps one party in power indefinitely. The problem is that we already had issues with previous elections where 20,000 voters were removed from Pennsylvania voter lists that all received mail-in ballots. So potentially they all could have voted in previous presidential elections. We have still post audits going on in Arizona. So this whole climate was put in place where a questioning of elections is made a taboo. It's actually against America. It's un-American to question the results of election, although post audit is defined and instituted as a regular process to check if elections were held in a free, transparent manner. So with this act, which is fortunately rejected for now, they try to institutionalize actually to fraudulent elections, to have one party power indefinitely.
It is kind of amazing, and I think we got word yesterday that the Secretary of State in Georgia was purging the voter rolls there. It was 18,000 dead people on the voter rolls, and it was tens of thousands of people that will be coming off. And my question on that, Joel, is why do it now? Why wouldn't you have done that before the election?
Absolutely. State legislators have a serious responsibility to uphold election laws in each of these states. But as we saw in the state of Pennsylvania as well as in Georgia, these issues of removing dead registrants should have taken place way before the presidential election of 2020. Yeah. And in fact, we had J. Christian Adams from the Public Interest Legal Foundation. Their group actually settled with the state of Pennsylvania to remove the 21,000 dead registrants from the list. Now, there is also a glitch in the state of Pennsylvania's process, whereby if you sign up for a DMV driver's license, you automatically are placed on the election list without regard to the fact if you are a citizen or not. And that could be tens of thousands of voters that are not actually U.S. citizens. So we have to really focus on these battleground states, make sure that we clean up the list and ensure election integrity for all Americans, because it's not only what happens in battleground states that are important, it impacts all of us in Mississippi and other states across America.
You know, guys, I don't know what the Democrats are worried more about as we get behind the politics. And this audience is the number one as far as political awareness. And when we cut all of the minutia, the noise, and go behind the scenes in the war rooms, you got to ask, what are the Democrats more frightened of redistricting, which is coming up, or the possibility that they cannot hold their factions together, from African Americans to women, et cetera, Latinos, Hispanic Americans? There are a multitude of things that they're worried about, because if any of those begin to fall, they crumble, and the only way to get around that is to, as you said, change the Constitution or rewrite the rules.
Right.
Go right ahead.
No, actually, all what you mentioned is basically cheating. It's the way to go around in order to win. And if we want to uphold consent of the governed and the government of, by, and for the people, then we need to have free, fair, transparent elections so that people decide who their legislators are going to be. And Democrats are actually far distant from their base, because when you look at the statistics of people accepting or actually wanting to have ID requirement for voting, it's over 70% of Black people and minorities that want to have ID requirement, that they think also coming to vote without ID. I mean, this is unprecedented. That doesn't happen even in authoritarian regimes that have, first elections after not having any elections. So that's actually the baseline. So they actually want to stay in power indefinitely, because this is the way of how to cheat and go around the system in order to prevail.
That's it. They are griping about the ability to cheat, and they don't want that suppressed. It is amazing, though, but only Democrats and politicians, Democrat politicians, can do this, to fly in the face of statistics and actual facts. If you look at it, I think overall Fox News was carrying a story yesterday or day before. 80% of the people approve. Now, I'm not sure if that breaks down to 70% of African Americans, but overall, 80% of the people in this country approve of voter ID. 80%, and you have Schumer standing up there like it's like it's probably 10%. They can fly in the face of these facts, and the other part of that is this: Tennessee and Mississippi were the two top states in the last election that had more African Americans than ever before as a percent of population vote in the last that were, I'm not sure vote, it probably transcends into that, but who actually were registered than any other state in the union.
Right. Yeah. In fact, we have seen that within the minority communities, that there has been a greater increase of individuals being part of the process of voting and participating in the electoral process. But as you mentioned a bit earlier, Paul, the fact is that we have seen, say, for example, the Latino community and vast numbers of African American voters actually voted for President Trump and for the right. Because what they have seen is that the conservative agenda of providing equal opportunity for all and the possibilities of achieving great things by through meritocracy rather than entitlement, and also on the immigration issue too, as we see at the border with over 170,000 individuals crossing over into our country from Mexico into the United States. The Latino community actually supports strict immigration laws, meaning a rule of law immigration policy. So those things are certainly within the center right that the vast majority of Americans support today.
I think one of the reasons the Democrats can get away with so much stuff is because the dumber folks are, as far as knowing their history, the more they can get away with things. For instance, if you talk to people who've immigrated here from other states, certainly from a socialist country, they understand that the very people who are going to be probably adversely affected, first of all, is going to be the minority, and it happens over and over. Can you guys hang on for another segment here?
Absolutely. It'd be a great honor.
Do that.
Thank you, Paul.
Joel and Natasha remain with us. America's Roundtable, 7:30 on Saturday till 8 o'clock. Do not miss it tomorrow because Mike Pompeo is going to be on. He was an excellent Secretary of State. No doubt about it. You guys think so?
Absolutely. A great American, a soldier, statesman, and one who truly believed in America first. And so we really appreciate him joining us tomorrow and sharing with Mississippians some of his concerns about what is happening in certain parts of the world and how it impacts our everyday life here in America.
Guys, it is happening so fast. It's just amazing to me. And you wonder at what point we're going to turn this thing around. I know you've been keeping up with this, but I just find it amazing that a socialist could win anywhere in this country. From when you start looking at exactly the results that are being produced. This little lady's name is India Walton.
The difference for me between a Democrat and a Democratic Socialist is that we prioritize people. We prioritize workers. We prioritize union membership and organized labor. And we want a fair deal for people who keep this city moving. We want a Green New Deal. We want health care and housing. We believe these are human rights. And we know that it is the responsibility of our government to actually care for the people and not corporations.
It is the responsibility of the people, of the government, to care for the people. Well, she's wrong about one thing. Her name is India Walton, and she's the new mayor elect of Buffalo, New York. She's wrong about one thing. It's the taxpayers that keep that city running. Your thoughts?
Hear, hear.
Right. I mean, the first thought that came to me was, who's going to pay for that?
Yes.
So that's an issue. And the only way, the capitalism is the only system that allows democracy to flourish. There's no, if you have socialism, you have authoritarian regimes. So who are going to be those people that are going to decide what's going to happen in the country? So this is a total top-down approach that was tried and utterly failed in Eastern Europe. And there's one country that has a capitalist system and a very large, generous social welfare. That would be Sweden. But even they see that with immigration coming in, they can't sustain it because it's just their taxpayers cannot pay for it. So it doesn't work really.
I know you guys have talked about gun control. What are your thoughts as far as what happened this week? From the White House and some of the projections and some of the things that they're talking about?
Well, I think, Paul, as you've rightfully mentioned, the concerns that we have is that this focus of this administration has been on gun control. We knew this going into the election season, that Biden had communicated more extreme measures, and we certainly need to affirm the importance of the Second Amendment more than ever before. When they talk about crime and all of these other issues, we have to look at where these cities are, what cities they're talking about. They don't really talk about what's happening in Chicago or Detroit or Washington, D.C., where these violent crimes are taking place with, the whole response of defunding the police. And so rather than focusing on supporting the police, and strengthening the structures there to address law and order, they're taking this extreme measure on gun control. And it really does not make sense at all, but it's an extreme measure that they're trying to push. It's a great distraction from the real root problems that lies in these cities. It's run by Democratic cities, governors, and also Democratic mayors, and it yields results that are not helping the citizens at the local level. So gun control is a serious problem, and we certainly need to affirm the Second Amendment.
I don't know if you guys have brought this up on America's Roundtable, but this is something we didn't have 10 or 15 years ago. As a matter of fact, it's been kind of a phenomenon now where people are posting a lot of things on social media, and they're testing the police and their knowledge. And I mean, it's white and black, young and old, and it's amazing to see, and male and female. It's amazing to see this, but not wanting to roll down the window, not wanting to give them the IDs, doing everything they possibly can to make an officer's job difficult. But the one thing that I've taken away from that is there are a lot of officers in this country, a lot of police officers, sheriffs, deputies, et cetera, that I don't think are being properly trained in exactly what the law is. Physically, they're probably okay, but just it seems to me the whole system of training officers and giving them the knowledge to be equipped. I think they want this. Your thoughts, real quick, on that?
Yeah, I mean, I like the mission to serve and protect. And I think they should just go with the mission, This is really, it says it all, to serve and protect. So I think the training, as you mentioned, would be needed. On the other side, as you mentioned, the Second Amendment, actually, it is enshrined in Constitution, in the U.S. Constitution, and actually government needs to protect it. So as long as people are able, law-abiding citizens are able to protect themselves by having a weapon and Second Amendment, there's going to be less role for police, potentially, because we need to all chip in.
I agree with you. Always good having you guys. We'll be listening tomorrow morning when Mike Pompeo will be on with America's Roundtable at 7:30. Do not miss it. Back with more.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Paul.